This is Jonathan Stark, and you are listening to Without Your Head.
All right, and we're back here at the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm still Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Amanda Bearse of Fright Night, of Married with Children, director. She's done all kinds of things, and you'll be seeing her very soon. We'll get into that in a moment. But how are you doing tonight?
Neil, I'm great. I'm just great. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm even better now.
Okay, good.
That this is working.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, you're going to be at Mad Monster Party, Shadow over Seattle, October 3rd through the 5th. It's this coming weekend. And you can get all your ticket information at madmonsterseattle.com. Or if you're listening off Without Your Head right now, you can just click right on it like magic, right at the top of the website, and you go there. And I've never been to Seattle. But
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, well, you're in for a treat. It's an amazing city. It really is.
Yeah, and it's going to be the biggest reunion ever, from what I understand, for Fright Night.
Yeah, pretty darn close. And I was actually surprised to see that the lineup, a gentleman, an actor by the name of Art Evans, who played the cop, and was very funny in Fright Night, the original, will be there, Art Evans, and then is it Heidi Sorensen? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, and she will be there also. Tom Holland, who has joined Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Stephen Jeffries, Jonathan Stark, and myself in the past. I don't think he's planning on being there. He's the writer-director. But in terms of head count, to make a pun off your show, or non-head count, I think this will be the largest gathering of the original Fright Night cast. So, and this is also one of the longest names of any convention that I've ever attended. So
that's got to mean something.
There you have it.
Yeah, that's got to mean something. Longest name.
Something. Shadow over Seattle sounds pretty groovy to me. So
it's a pretty sweet logo.
Well, come on, come all, because we just enjoy meeting the fans of Fright Night. And I just realized, actually, this evening at dinner with my family, that it's been 30 years since we made the film. It didn't launch, it didn't come out until 1985, but we made it in the fall, beginning in the fall of 1984. So I think I'm doing my math right.
Yeah.
Yow.
I remember clearly going to see it when it first came out.
Yeah, were you about 3? How old were you, Neil?
Well, if it was 30 years ago, I was 8.
Oh, okay, cool. Were you scared? Because at that time,
it doesn't seem right.
The special effects were pretty state of the art. Now we have CGI and it's a whole different ballgame. But back in the day, Richard Edlund and his group did a pretty magnificent job in terms of trying to scare you. And so at 8 years old, it might have worked, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe it must have played a little bit later here. I was probably maybe 11, but yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still pretty young, but yeah, and well, you said it came out, let's say 30 years ago. What do you think about Fright Night that makes it, stand out to people all this time and to new generations of people?
Well, certainly when we were making it, we enjoyed ourselves. And one of the things that was unique to this script was that it was very honoring of the traditions of vampire lore. Tom Holland, the writer-director, he just really researched and loved and knew the genre. And it was there on the page. But then he also interjected this lovely sort of sensitive humor, especially through Roddy McDowall's character playing this sort of B-movie actor. And so it was a funny horror movie, which is still to this day fairly unique. And then you mix in the kitschiness of the 1980s production values. And of course the remarkable performances. No, I'm kidding. But it was just really the star of the movie is the movie. And we just delight in the fact that it's become sort of this cult classic. And when we were making it, we certainly enjoyed ourselves. And when you're doing comedy, you want to enjoy yourself because then the audience will enjoy it with you.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of plays on screen as well. And it's just a kick for us to always, to continue to get together and see each other after all this time.
Yeah. There's something talk a lot on the show about horror comedies at work, because from them to work, I think the horror in them still has to be good. Like, it's still a scary movie, and all the special effects look good, all the gore looks good.
Well, we're not talking about, like, say, the movie Scary Movie, because that really is a parody. But I think it's part of the humanity of the film. There was a lot of sort of real and truthful human characters that people could understand and relate to. And then you put them in this crazy, insane situation, through Charlie Brewster, William Ragsdale's character. Here's this kid who's living next door to a monster, and he's trying to convince everybody that that's the case. Well, it's just really great storyline. And then the journey that Tom takes us on, again, it's just really lively. It's truthful, but it's also pretty darn scary.
Yeah. And, you brought up...
So effective.
You brought up Tom Holland, and, the movie, goes in, like, the vampire lore of other movies. Do you think that really makes it before its time, where it's, like, referencing vampire movies within a vampire movie?
Well, he was a true fan of sort of the real old-school Hollywood vampire films, just like Roddy McDowall's character represents, in his late-night television show. And again, it's all sort of relative to the era, first of all, that Fright Night #1 was made, and then also to the era that it's referencing. It's a totally different ballgame now. 30 years is a really long time. But you could tell that Tom really respected and honored the traditions of that sort of lore. And to me as a kid, vampires were the scariest because they were so human. They weren't this like kooky, gross, freaky, covered in cloth or whatever kind of monster. It was human, and then also monstrous, at the turn of a dime. So I just think it was a great mix, and he sort of launched. Lost Boys came a couple of years later, and then a lot of the young audience literature, and the rest in terms of the new millennium blast off with the vampire lore. So, it's kind of nice that we were in there early on, or sort of mid-range, really.
Yeah. Were you a fan of horror movies in general before making Fright Night?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm a real scaredy cat. And fortunately, it didn't scare me to make it, but it certainly did. It was very effective to watch it. And I think it didn't take itself too seriously, the film, in certain moments, and then in other moments, it was very serious and very real. And I think just the whole mix together makes it what it is today, that people still continue to enjoy it. So it's delightful.
Yeah. We had Jonathan Stark on last week. He mentioned he didn't go see he's never seen the movie on the big screen. He didn't want to see himself on the big screen, I guess.
Well, we didn't invite him to come with us. We really didn't want to hang out with him anymore. He said, no, kidding. Yeah. I don't know what Jonathan was. I didn't remember that he was sort of sheepish about it. I do remember seeing it with Billy on Hollywood Boulevard. It opened at the old Egyptian Theater, which was also pretty magnificent to have a film, playing on Hollywood Boulevard and the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Although that theater was sort of in need of a renovation, which it's since received. But it was a hoot and a half to sit in the back of the audience and listen to people's reactions to the movie. It was fantastic. So I don't know what Jonathan's problem is. We'll have to have a little chat.
Yeah. Now, have you seen the movie since at like conventions with a group of people?
No, some of the ones we didn't get together. This is still fairly new for us. I think it's probably been more than 5, but less than 10 times that we've seen each other. And the first time was about I want to say about 5 years ago, around the 25th anniversary of the film. So a couple of those conventions were showing it, late night kind of a thing. But I didn't go. But it was cute because people would come up and visit with us the next day at the convention. And for some of them, it was the first time they'd ever seen it on a big screen, and they were just, having a really good time with it. So,
yeah.
Are they showing it at Mad Monster Shadow over Seattle?
Mad Monster Party Shadow over Seattle are they showing? I don't believe that they are.
Okay.
I'm not positive
and I'm not
that.
sure, but sometimes we get together and have a panel. And I know we met you at one a couple of years back over in Chicago. Schellenberg, I think is the name of it.
Yeah. They said Chicago.
Yeah.
It was just a lot.
So maybe we'll get together and get to do that too, because it's always fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
they're from the audience and have them ask questions and hang out.
I'm pretty sure there is going to be a panel for the event, and I'm sure you're invited.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I hope so. Well, if not, I'll just go have a Coca-Cola somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, well, when you started to do the conventions, because when we had Jonathan on, he said he was a little worried. He was a little nervous about them. He didn't know how the people would be. Did you have any preconceived notions about a horror convention, and how did that change once you were at one?
Well, yes and no. And with the response and the fandom of Married with Children, it's really such a bonus to doing the work itself. And so to be able to attend an event where you just have a crowd of people who cared about what you did or had a response to what you did, I mean, that's really cool because you're in a vacuum, especially when you're making a film. You have no idea what people's response will be or their reactions. So to hear it, especially these many decades later, it's a pretty awesome experience. So, like I said, Jonathan, he's strange. He's got some issues, and I will have a deep conversation with it. I just look forward to meeting people who, for one reason or another, have experienced my work and want to come up and talk to me about it.
Yeah.
I really just enjoy meeting folks, and I hope that people won't shy away. There's really an interesting crowd at this convention that they're having so many folks from the original Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the last remaining Ramones and one of the members of the band Kiss. I mean, that's a pretty cool draw. And then you've got all us Fright Night gang, and so just come and hang out and talk with us about it.
Yeah, this professional wrestler Roddy Piper will be there as well.
Okay, have no idea who that is, but I guess maybe I'll meet him.
Well, he wears a kilt, so he'll stand out.
Okay.
Now, you said Jonathan is a strange man, and that reminded me...
No, I'm just kidding. The fact that he's so sensitive. No, he's adorable.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, is a very accomplished comedy writer. Mm-hmm. He lives in the same world that I've been in for decades in terms of the situation comedy. He's written and produced and created memorable episodes of television, and so he brought a lot of humor to his very supporting role. He made it a standout because he's such an interesting guy. So I'm just teasing, and I will tease him as I like to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew you were, but I did want to. Last week he talked a lot about your boobs, but I met at a convention. Did he
really?
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yes.
Huh.
It was a story about a convention where apparently I guess you brought the boobs that you wore during the filming of the film. Yes.
Well, when I made Fright Night, I was a bit smaller and younger, and as time goes on, some parts of your body grow, some that you like and some maybe not. But long story short, they had to cast my chest in order to make a voluptuous set of breasts that I did not naturally in doubt. And so for whatever reason, Neil, I really don't know why, I held on to them, not literally, but in a box. It was actually in a See's candy box for so many years on some closet shelf, and then through one move after another. And I just decided, it was time to maybe just let these go. Had I known that this convention, which is also a cool thing to note, tomorrow, of course, is October 1st, and the convention starts on the 3rd, and October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. So, and Heidi Sorensen, I believe, is somebody who's very active in that campaign. And they asked me if I happen to have any other pairs of my boobs sitting around, but that was my last and only one. And I did end up selling them at our sort of auctioning them at one of the conventions that we were all in attendance. So I guess it just made an impression on Mr. Jonathan Stark. So again, something else I need to discuss with him.
Mm-hmm. I'll take him off my mantelpiece and I'll bring him along with me. No, I wasn't the one who bought them.
No, you were not.
I was not.
I remember that gentleman very well, and no, that's not you.
All right. Now, you mentioned both of you doing sitcoms. He writes sitcoms and you direct sitcoms, and was that something you always wanted to do, directing? And how did you get involved in that?
Well, it's a natural progression that a lot of actors make, and I'm not a writer. I'm writing more now in time, but Jonathan's the writer, and I really I went behind the camera to direct, and I've been there for over 20 years now. And of course, Married with Children is the show where I got to do that for the first time, and for I don't know how many, 30 or 40 more times. So it certainly launched my second career, because I've just stayed behind the camera for the most part, since Married with Children stopped production. Of course, Married with Children's never left the airwaves, which is a pretty amazing thing. The two acting jobs that I'm most known for, which is Fright Night and Married with Children, they both become these sort of cult classics, and I just get a kick out of it. Mm-hmm. But I love directing. It's a much more expansive and creative way to work. As an actor, you sort of plug your one piece of the puzzle into the pie, and as a director, you really get to make the puzzle. And you work a lot harder, you get paid a lot less, but it's a transition that I'm really glad I made in my career.
Mm-hmm. Did it just when you started doing that, did you just know right away, like, this is something that I really enjoy doing?
Well, I grew up doing theater.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of young actors approach me, and, people at conventions, and talk about their interest in doing film or theater or whatever. And I grew up, in school doing plays and doing theater, and I was on stage as well as behind the scenes. So when I began my acting career professionally, I always paid attention to the crews. I love crews. There's so many more people involved in production than just what you see on the air, mm-hmm. whether it's in a film or a television show. And so for me, it was almost a full circle experience to go behind the camera and really work much more closely, not only with actors, but with crew and designers and technicians and just all the other talents and efforts that go into making a production what it is.
Mm-hmm. We have a few questions here from Facebook people had sent in. If you'd like to
I'm sorry, Neil. I'm not going to answer. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Renee Lockhart wants to know, and she's brought this up many times, what did you think about the sexually charged scenes with Chris Sarandon?
What did I think about that?
I guess more
okay, let me just explain it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Sarandon was nominated for an Academy Award in his first feature film. He is an accomplished and to this day even more so actor, and and yet he is the most gracious and giving, and he treated me as if I was a peer when this was an early piece of work for me. Fright Night was very early in my career. And he was so lovely and so gracious, which is helpful when you have to do scenes where there's intimacy. Mm-hmm. And so not only was he very handsome, and just it wasn't a bad thing to kiss Chris Sarandon and be up next to him at all, but he also made it so easy for me because he was so respectful and acknowledging of me. I wasn't just some little picture actor and who are you and okay, I'll have to do this with you. He's a gentleman, and he is to this day. So that's part of the reason why I love to come and do these conventions, because it's nice to be with him.
Yeah. Nope. During like the scene, like the seduction scene when you guys are in the in like the club, did you know what song was playing while you're filming that?
No, they played some sort of random generic beat. You know, the score, Brad Fiddel's score, that's not put in till later. Mm-hmm. So, it was just pretty much a thump, 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 thump. But it didn't even really matter because, as you well know, within that scene, the music transitions. Mm-hmm. And it becomes this completely different dance. And it's really as if our two characters aren't even listening to the music. Mm-hmm. They're just sort of responding to each other. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you saw the movie with the score and the music, for the first time, did you think all that, added to the film?
Well, absolutely. And especially as a director now, I mean, I've always understood that there are just so many layers and so many elements, especially in post-production. A film is made in the editing process. Yes, you shoot and you create and you bring all this material, but it's built in the editing room. And then it's finished, when you add in the layers of score and Foley, special effects, da-da-da-da. So to see where to see what it became after where we left it, it was amazing. It always is.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen the movie many times, and not just saying this because I have you on the show. Like I said, I went to see it when it first came out, and I've seen it many. But I watched it again recently, and all that stuff really still holds up. All the music in it, the score, the whole film.
Well, and it's also very specific
to that. Yeah, it's still
to the era.
Time,
Part of why I think Fright Night works, the original version. And not the Fright Night 2 and as much, and the sequel was very well done, but it's not really even an homage to the first one. It's sort of a standalone good horror movie, but very separate and apart from the energy and the experience of the first one. And part of what that was filmmaking in the 1980s. I mean, you really are embracing that whole period of culture. Mm-hmm. And included in that is the wardrobe and the special effects, as well as the style of music that was popular at the time. And it's kind of cool that it just holds up. It's pretty silly and it's dated, but you kind of can look at it in a way of, okay, it was of its era, of its time. You could see its merit. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what helps it stay fresh for people.
Mm-hmm. When we had a few of the we had Chris on last week and Stephen Jeffries on, and everyone had mentioned that doing the rehearsals really helped with the movie as well, because everyone really got to know their character, and you'd get chemistry between the different characters. And how much did that help you, especially being one of your first, I guess your first major film?
Well, I'd actually done a film right before that with Stephen Jeffries, where I played his girlfriend, which was really weird. And he and I were sort of talking and he played, a little geeky guy, and I sort of played sort of a kind of precursor character to Marcy on Married with Children. She was a little kind of uptight, preppy little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were just chatting one day, and it's like, well, what are you doing after this? Oh, well, I'm going to be doing this movie called Fright Night. Oh, really? So am I. So that was, that was kind of interesting and an unusual thing to happen. Having the luxury of 2 weeks of rehearsal, I think it was a couple of weeks that we had, is a luxury. I mean, you don't really get that kind of time as a group to come together. You usually do that kind of work on your own. I studied in New York at a method acting conservatory, and so doing that sort of background and deep understanding of who you are before you arrive on the set, it's important, and it informs the work that you do. So yeah, all of it was helpful. All of it was great. And then to be working with really good actors, because not only Chris, who was quite accomplished at that time, but Billy and Stephen and Jonathan, they're all, and Art, they're all really fine actors. So when you just work moment to moment off of their work, it makes you better. Mm-hmm. It sort of raises the bar. So it was just really one of those kind of lucky experiences, and maybe that too contributes to why it holds up after all these years.
Yeah. Along those lines, when you're on set and working with Roddy McDowall, someone from like a previous generation, how much you learned from him, and what is it like, to work with someone like that?
Well, again, he was legendary. Mm-hmm. I mean, Chris was accomplished, but Roddy was legendary, and he was just so sort of modest, just a real humble man, and he had wonderful stories to share. I didn't have a lot of scenes with him. I think really I only had one or two. Well, now I say that, maybe three as a group. The one kind of smaller scene was when Stephen and I came over to ask him, to help Charlie. So it wasn't a lot of time spent with him, but quite memorable. And he was a walking Hollywood archive. He just had so much life experience and history through cinema in his time in Hollywood land. And he was so quick and easy to share that. And, we just sit there with our mouths open wide, just listening to his stories one after the other. Because, please, how often do you get an experience like that? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he passed away far too soon, because I think he'd actually get a kick out of coming to these things with us. And, of course, it'd be amazing. Yeah. To be with him. But he was also so cute in that he realized he had a lot of A-list, as they say, actor friends, but he wasn't necessarily regarded as that. He was more of a B-list actor, and here he was in a movie playing a B-list sort of has-been actor, late-night television host, and I think it really tickled him. He didn't shy away from it. If anything, he really embraced that. And that's, again, what made him so vulnerable and human in some of those scenes. And, he was a precious human being and a very talented man. So,
see, a couple more questions here from Facebook. Slarty Bardfast. Well, he wanted to know what made you want to direct Married with Children specifically.
Well, first of all, it was the job I was in. So I was also fifth banana on that show. The Bundy family was essentially the star of the show. Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy, and then the Bundy family, and then the neighbors. Me being the one who held on, and then I went through a couple of husbands there. I sort of was going to have my place in the structure of the storyline. So when they came to me and said, you're going to have this much involvement in terms of acting, is there something else you'd like to to be involved in, and I said directing. So I negotiated for it. So that's a pretty strong position to come from. So it wasn't exactly sitting back and going, which show would I like to direct? It was the show that was in front of me.
Right.
And the fact that they allowed that to happen and then nurture it, because I went on to direct for, 5 years, 6 years of that show. And it launched my second career. So I was grateful to get it and to have it and to have the support of the writers, producers, the creators, as well as the cast and crew. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, when Married with Children, when it ended, was it canceled like before the next season had started? Like, I don't think there was a final season. No,
it was pretty it was really pretty sad. There were people, I'm not going to name any names, but there were people who were really not participating with the show the way they used to, and the company, Sony Pictures Entertainment, which was once Columbia Pictures Television, which is our producing company for Fox, I think they realized that this dynamic on the set was not really working anymore. And it wasn't fun. And it was much harder, the final season of Married with Children. So although none of us knew exactly that it was going to end, a lot of us, and I'll include myself in that, wanted it to. Because it wasn't what it used to be. And it's too bad because it warranted more of a significant finale. And, I think Christina Applegate, heard that the show was canceled over the radio. She was in her car. I can't remember who called me, probably my agent or somebody, because I wasn't in California at the time. And, to say that it wasn't coming back. And the disservice was that it did have its place. It's made its mark in television history. So it would have been pretty cool for it to make a mark at the end instead of just sort of dwindle. But honestly, the behavior and the work ethic on the set had diminished, and that's why it ended.
As a fan growing up watching the show, I always wanted, a finale to it, and for a long time it really was the show of Fox. They kind of made that
two-part Chrissy getting married and then not episodes. I think they always had it in mind that could be a wrap. And we all knew it. And I think many of the cast and a lot of the crew, of course, they didn't want it to end because it was a great job. And we had many good years and wonderful times together. But it was that final season that really spiraled down. And I was directing the majority of those episodes. So not only, I had the participation as an actor, but also as a director. So I was very involved with the series. And yet it just wasn't what we had hoped it would be. And how we thought it would continue. And it just made it very hard to continue. So that's why they pulled the plug.
Yeah, I remember, for a long time it really was like the show of Fox, kind of like the show that Fox is built on.
Exactly, it was. Yes, that's pretty awesome. I mean, way back in the day, the early days of the cable television industry, MTV was in place and Ted Turner's networks and so forth, but there had never been a quote-unquote fourth network. And Joan Rivers, God rest her soul, you had started the talk show, but then the first night of primetime programming included Married with Children, and it was the show that continued to anchor the Fox network for 10 years. So it had its little profound place in television history. And, it is. It's kind of sad that it didn't go out with more of a bang. Mm-hmm. It went out with a whimper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember, watching every Sunday night with my family, and it was always Married with Children, and then like whatever show would come on after that, because they'd always try to have a show that would follow Married with Children, and none of them ever lasted too long. But it was,
different things. Tracy Ullman had good success there for a while, but hers didn't come on, I think, until a little while later. And of course, 21 Jump Street, which launched numerous careers, and that began at 7 p.m. But our 9 o'clock hour on Sunday nights for probably 8 or 9 years. I don't know exactly when they moved us out of that. And then, of course, The Simpsons had come on really strong, born out of the Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah, I always tell people.
And,
played in between the ads. Yeah. It was, I think it was Herman's Head was one of the many shows that came on after.
Well, that's little Billy Ragsdale. Our little favorite Billy Ragsdale, who I will always know as Billy. I know he's William or Bill now, but he's a grown and important man. Uh-huh. But to me, he'll always be Billy Ragsdale, and I can't wait to see him on Friday. So we will be there starting, I think, 6 p.m. on Friday evening at the Hyatt in Bellevue, Washington, which is not Seattle proper, as they say. It's across Lake Washington from downtown Seattle, but it's a lovely venue, and we will be there all weekend. So come one, come all.
I'm really looking forward to it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and actually right here in front of me, and they just added it actually to the website. They have the complete schedule up, and 1:15 Saturday afternoon is the Fright Night Anniversary Cast Reunion Panel.
At 1:50?
1:15. It's a very specific.
1:15.
Very specific time.
Well, then I guess I better show up, huh, Neil?
I believe so. I believe so. Yes.
I will be there, and I hope you will be too. Are you hosting it again this time?
I will not be hosting it, no, but I'll be there. I'll film it if I'm allowed. And you were right. It's the 30th anniversary.
I look forward to seeing you. This was fun chatting with you, and I think your webisode, all of your world of web there that you've got going with your with decapitation. What is it called?
It's Without Your Head, the Station of Decapitation.
Station of Decapitation.
Yeah, I'm trying to go for
Without
a longer.
Your Head.
I'm trying to beat Shadow over Seattle for a longer title.
It's all good. You've got time. You've got time.
I do.
Well, listen, I enjoyed speaking with you, and I look forward to seeing you. Come on, everybody. I want to meet you. Come see us in Bellevue.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And all the information up on the website, and go over to madmonsterseattle.com. And thank you for coming on. It's been great.
My pleasure, Neil. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. This is Stephen Jeffries from Fright Night, and you're listening to Without Your